And now I would ask the great women from the second panel to turn on their cameras if they haven't already done that. So on the second panel, we are going to speak about tech career training. And we promised at the beginning we would present some very practical examples. And this is exactly what we're going to do now. The first panel was a little bit the political introduction, and now we're really going into real life. So I'm very happy to welcome Nakeema Stefflbauer. Nakeema Stefflbauer holds MA and PhD degrees from Harvard University in modern Middle East history. So probably not exactly what you expected from a tech expert. A BA from Brown University and executive MBA from the disruptive Crantic School of Business and Technology. Leveraging extensive research, digital transformation, and entrepreneurship experience, Dr. Stefflbauer has led over 500 hours of applied training for women and underrepresented career changes in tech. And this is only the first paragraph of her many achievements, and the rest of which I will skip because we're starting a little bit late. And we go on with Rosanna Kurrer. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly, otherwise you'll do it later. Rosanna Kurrer addresses the building blocks of a rapidly expanding European platform, growing next generation diverse cybersecurity professionals across the globe, fitting into the workforce today. An architectural engineer with a major in building physics from Kyoto University, Japan, she consults and leads design thinking, corporate innovation security, and computational thinking seminars to governments, corporations, and individuals. She emphasizes the importance of a growth mindset as well as a bias to action approach and a radical collaboration. She's a certified MIT master trainer in educational mobile computing and EU Code Week ambassador. Great to have you too, Rosanna. And then, where are you? There you are. We come to Tolúlọpẹ Ògúnrẹ, and she is the founder of the award-winning organization Coders of Color, an organization with the aim of getting underrepresented people of color into the technology industry and providing an opportunity for them to experiment with coding in a safe and accessible space. She's also an advocate for providing STEM education for people in underrepresented backgrounds, working on Project Hazy to provide learning resources to schools in some of the poorest areas of Nigeria. Her work stretches to supporting Black people in France, where she's organizing Akwaba Fest, and I apologize for the pronunciation. She's a graduate of mathematics and computer science and is currently exploring the intersection between spoken languages and AI in the field of natural language processing, which interests me a lot as the girl who was good at languages. So thank you all very much for being here. And as an introduction, I would like to ask you just to very briefly present your projects. What exactly are you doing? Who wants to start? Like to ask Tolúlọpẹ, would you like to go first? Is that okay?
Sure, I'm happy to. So my name is Tolúlọpẹ, as introduced. Thank you so much for the introduction. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. But I will keep it brief. So Coders of Color is a not-for-profit aimed at getting young underrepresented people of color into tech through free coding training. We work with 11 to 25-year-olds, and we've had young people on the younger end come through our programs and enroll in computer science education at university, and people on the older end go directly into employment as recently as a month ago. So we support people all across all their needs and try and provide an ecosystem where young people can come and feel safe to learn, but also try out coding and just have the autonomy to say, I tried it out, you know, maybe I liked it, maybe I didn't. But I do think a lot of young people from certain backgrounds are not given that autonomy. So that's what we try to do.
Great, thank you so much, Tolúlọpẹ. Yes, I do. And Rosanna, I read somewhere preparing for this that you said, and I might misquote you a little bit, I think I get the gist of it, the lack of diversity in the digital sector is a threat to European security. And starting from there, what is your project? What are you doing in order to save Europe?
Well, yeah, I mean, we all know ever since the pandemic that we have moved to a more digital environment and that we are accessing our networks, our work networks from home. This creates a lot of vulnerabilities. And so, yeah, for me, this is like a all hands on deck moment, like during World War II. I mean, I don't want to create panic, but I would say our critical infrastructures are now running on digital systems. So it could really be as simple as turning off the light switch and we're out. So this is really true. And our project, we started 5 years ago, based in Luxembourg and in Brussels, Belgium. And what we do is we call it a cybersecurity workforce development program to get more women and diverse profiles into cybersecurity. And the reason for this is not just to increase diversity, but also to mature the field of cybersecurity, because we need diverse and innovative approaches to secure our systems. And this is what's lacking. So I'm saying it's a safety issue and security issue because there are so many unfilled jobs in the market at the moment.
Thank you, Rosanna. Nakeema, would you briefly introduce your project? I think you're also helping the Berlin tech industry to fill their skills gap. And how do you do that? What kind of women are you training?
So Frauen-Loop is the organization, nonprofit organization that I founded going on 5 years ago. It focuses on addressing refugee, immigrant, and resident women's desire or interest to learn computer programming. We focus on skills that range from web development to data analytics to machine learning to software quality testing and automation. Having started with a very small pilot program, we've now expanded to approximately 50 women per cycle, coming from up to 26 different nationalities. The focus is jobs, and the focus is getting access to women who otherwise would not have an opportunity to enter the industry, to get an orientation in the industry. And given that in Germany alone, we have a gigantic gap in terms of the jobs available and the people who have the skills to fill those jobs, it's maybe not as urgent as the infrastructure emergency that Rosanna mentioned, but definitely upwards of 80,000, 86,000 was the quotes for 2020 of jobs that are not being filled that desperately need to be trained. We need to train people to do if we want the economy to continue growing and if we want these sectors to represent the society that we live in.
Great. I hope the Commission is listening, and maybe some entrepreneurs who are still asking themselves how to find the right staff. These 3 women know how to do that, how to train the right people, make the digital industry more diverse, younger, more female, and we will solve a lot of problems. Tolúlọpẹ, I'd like to start with you. Why you work with people from 11 to 25? Why do you focus on that age range, which is, usually people focus on children or on teenagers or on adults? So why did you make that choice? Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Absolutely. So from BCS statistics, 2% of the tech workforce is Black. So I think we need to support as many people as we can and work on several different ways. Younger people have different needs. There are needs of role models and guidance, and like I said, the autonomy to try something out and be interested. But I also, live in a place where once you're 18 and you're kind of set in your ways, it's very difficult to convert over to tech through traditional education. So there is that support needed, and it's support that we can provide to give people practical skills and have practically oriented programs to give them things that they can show off on their CV or go to people. But the main kind of very simple answer is they all need help, they all need support, and we're here to support all of them.
Great, thank you. Rosanna, why do we need programs, or maybe that's a question to everybody later if you want to come in. Why don't we need specific programs targeting women or targeting Black people, minority programs? I mean, why don't these people just go on? I always ask a little bit the devil's advocate question, so don't take offense. Why don't these people just go to traditional programs? Why do we need special training?
You want to? I think Nakeema, you can start, and I can follow up on what you say.
Well, I can start up by quickly saying gatekeeping. We need to do a lot of the training because it's incredibly difficult to get information about the software development cycle, digital transformation processes, and how these companies and these businesses work. And as somebody who myself is a career changer, have a academic background that has nothing to do with the career that I chose, I know it can be done. I know that the skills can be learned, but you need either some type of training program or a network that's going to help you to acquire those skills. And right now, that's very difficult to obtain, particularly for women who make up, in Germany, 16-17% of the job market of the ICT employees.
Rosanna.
Yeah. So like with gatekeeping, I think it's like all stakeholders involved have difficulty imagining how it could work. The women don't know if they will be successful, if they invest their time in training, and will they get a job after? Like, who wants to study, which in the end, you don't get a job. On the other hand, the HR officer, human resources, the recruitment agencies, the hiring managers, they don't know what women can do. And already the signals the women send are also of that, am I sure, can I do it? It doesn't help them.
Mm.
So, and I understand also on the side of HR people, which is incidentally mostly women who are HR officers, they block the entrance because they're risking their own performance evaluation. So I think that what we need to do is we need to understand all the stakeholders involved, women on both sides of the people hiring, the women hiring and the women want to be hired. And we need to help both sides match them together and to pitch the values that both will come from helping each other. And I think people don't see that because it hasn't been done. And because we are in a minority, women in tech, that means we really don't have so many success stories. We have a lot of success stories, that's true, and role models, but it hasn't scaled. We don't have I would say the tipping point would be 40%. When we are not tokens, nor are we minority, and that's when let's say the power balance and the influence balance in an organization or in a team matters. That's when my ideas will be taken up, when my perspective will be seen as an asset, and where I feel myself valued as a person and not as a demographic, let's say, representative of my demographic. So going beyond me representing women or me representing minority, but just me being Rosanna with my assets, my skills. And I think there have been several studies on this, and you really need 40% to create that balance. So we're still away from it. And the women there are still tokens in a way in the IT and in cybersecurity even more.
Yeah, I think it's like in every other sector, you need these 40% to be there the way you are, to be yourself in the sector and not to have to fight all the time and to be afraid of being attacked or to pretend to be somebody else or to adapt to male models. And that's the important thing to bring in. Really, I'm saying half, 50%, but 40 is already a good start. But yeah, and to be in a crowd, to feel you're not alone, you have allies. So I think this is something very important, to be able to build alliances as well. This is what I experienced in the European Parliament. And I'm like Maria Carvalho was on the first panel, is still there. She's from EPP and I'm from the Greens, and usually that's pretty far away politically, but this is a matter where we really share the same concerns and the same ideas, and it's good to work together. And we have also worked on a legislative level very well. And I wouldn't have achieved that without women from other parties supporting the ideas of half of it of gender impact assessments. We would never have achieved what we have achieved in a purely male environment. But Tolúlọpẹ, I'm sure you also want to answer that question, why these special spaces and special programs are so important.
Absolutely. We're talking about 40%. I just mentioned 2%. Long ways to go. It's very important to feel safe. I have a degree in computer science. I was one black girl out of 250. There were 2 black people. The other one was a guy. You can imagine that that's not the, that doesn't resemble my home life, that doesn't resemble my school life. It would be nice to have a space where I feel comfortable, and this is my personal experience. But we had a young person in one of our programs this summer that said, I've never been in a room with people that look like me before, and it was so nice to learn, and I felt safe, and I felt like I could ask questions. So especially when we're working on education and getting people into jobs, we need to have that positive association with tech that sometimes people don't have the opportunity to have. And so, for obvious reasons, like we said, statistically it's important, but also in terms of just fostering learning and allowing people to believe themselves that they're worthy and that they belong in that space, it's important for them to have a safe space to begin with.
If I may add, sorry, but something that's very particular to cybersecurity is that only 40% of the workforce actually have a computer science background, 40% only. So men do not have an issue with having a background in music or a background in political science moving into tech. It really is a phenomenon I've seen so often. A lot of our trainers, we have at least 70 trainers, and I would say, yeah, like 60% are men, and only half of them have a computer science background. So, this is sometimes a barrier that not only we put for ourselves, that maybe I think we also put on the women. And again, going back to the gatekeepers, usually the HR people don't even know what these skills are. For them, it's just a checklist. So we really need to build awareness all over for all stakeholders, and not just for the women. Employers need to know this, hiring managers, HR professionals need to know this. And they also need to know that they need to do it not because it's fair, but it's also because it makes their organization safer to have more ideas, and especially in cybersecurity, where there's so many misconceptions about it. They think it's a tech problem or an IT problem, when it's actually a sociological problem. So this is really something that people are not aware of, and it's usually the hiring people, the HR people, are also not aware of this. So we really need to build awareness on this, and also show that there are a lot of success stories of this career pivots from non-tech. And you know what? It's even nice to have maybe a balance of social sciences and tech in a team.
Absolutely.
So if I can add something there, I also totally agree that there's a need to not only educate, but also to incentivize employers and to help them to understand that they need to invest in their employees, and that if they are not interested in investing, they want to hire seniors across the board, and they have specific profiles that don't include women because they haven't successfully hired women or people of color, or whatever the group is, they are going to limit themselves and struggle, and we're going to have these huge numbers of jobs unfilled, and they're not going to have the results financially. Lots of research that shows, Harvard Business Review, University of Penn, tons of statistics that show teams perform better when there's ethnic, gender, other types of diversity. Why do they perform better? Because no one on the team is taking it easy and is relaxing and knows exactly what's going to be said, because everyone in the room looks like them, is educated like them, and has the same idea of how to succeed. It's basically leveling up the performance of everyone who is going to be confronted by people they don't have much in common with, they don't know what their opinions are, and with enough diversity, everyone feels safe to actually bring their A game, and you get much better performance, much better financial returns. So I think it's important that we understand that there are levers that can be pushed to help employers to hire diversely, and not just on their boards because they want to IPO with Goldman Sachs.
And also the problem with retention, because I think there are a lot of women coming into tech and then leave. And that's the same with cybersecurity, because they don't agree with the culture. So I think people should understand that they keep on saying, oh, we need to mentor these women. And again, putting the responsibility on the women. But I think, and what we found out is what women need more, because we actually help the women also succeed when they're in the workforce, is not really mentorship. What they need is somebody to champion them, somebody to put the power, the level, the power, put an equal balance on the power, because it's not really the fact that they don't know what to do or they need advice. It's the fact that they lack influence. because they're tokens, and tokens usually don't have the power to change or to make things, or even to be heard sometimes. So this is kind of like the problem. So we really need a multi-stakeholder like effort, like, you know, community-wide, and probably a lot of network of policies that are connected to each other. So yeah.
I wanted to add that I'm actually having quite some success now with partnering with companies directly for the Frauen-Loop program. And the way that I've been able to do that is to demonstrate that, you know, we have the women, we have the training, we have the specialization, and that the companies get the benefit of being able to also contribute and shape, if they are ready to invest, shape the training that we're providing, so that it's, you know, working from the Frauen-Loop program works from the job market backwards. So we've always focused on where are the jobs coming up? Is it in data analytics? Is it in big data? Is it in whichever sectors or subsectors that may not be well known outside of tech, that we can train using women who are working in those sectors as our mentors. Most of our mentors, all of our mentors actually, are working tech people. And basically we've gotten to a point where companies are starting to understand it's not a loss and it's not a slowing down to hire juniors. If we get that loyalty, if we get the ability to kind of shape their technical development further once they're hired on. And it's really interesting to see that this is only now becoming kind of, I think, the standard for tech training programs that are working to get women as quickly as possible, or people of color, or any minorities into the workforce, because it doesn't need to take 12 years and start in 10th grade or 8th grade or kindergarten. It can actually be an introduction to the world of IT at any point when an adult woman is interested in improving their financial security, stability, etc. I have lots of friends who say, gosh, it's so amazing to be able to work remotely, given all that's happening with the COVID crisis.
And I also would like to add to that, that we've had lots of good experience with women in their 40s and 50s. And you would think that these are the people who are not noticed anymore, but I like to call them, these are the closet engineers. They were the ones who would have wanted to take math or engineering in their younger years. It's not too late, is what I'm saying. We've had like 5 cohorts of women, both in Brussels and Luxembourg, and I have, at least 4 or 5 of them who are now working either in a big consultancy firm or in critical infrastructure like power companies, doing cybersecurity risk management. So it's amazing. It's not easy. Because they have to battle, they have their daily battles. But if you're passionate, then it works. But like I said, age, it's also, there's a lot of goodwill out there, a lot of men and women who want to see change. There's a lot of goodwill, people who want to train, people who want to mentor, people who want to help. The industry wants to do it. But unfortunately, there's still a lot of fear in that risk taking. So you always have to take a risk on a profile. And so how do we take, the question I always ask myself is, how do I take out the risk or minimize or mitigate that risk that these hiring managers have to take in order to get our women on board?
Yeah, great. I mean, that sounds like we have a solution for the skills shortage and for unemployment in Europe at the same time. So, I mean, this is the silver bullet I'm presenting here to the audience. I'm so proud of you. I have a question to Tolúlọpẹ to bring you back into something I was curious about. Your program does not target women in particular, actually, but there are a lot of women in your program. How come? Could you explain that?
Correct. I believe, as I previously mentioned, we create a safe space where we're welcoming to everyone, and that's really important. And I believe by proxy, we just have intersectionality, and we have a lot of young people from different, whether it's LGBTQ plus or women, just flocking and feeling safe, and they know that they'll feel welcome and they'll be treated, you know, with respect and the same as everyone else. I do think the fact that I am the founder and that I'm a woman may also help and may also provide that image. But I do see women as very kind of proactive and they're just looking for that space where they feel like they can, they can learn and grow and be supported. And so that would be my theory.
Yeah, that sounds very plausible, that theory. So just one last brief round. What would you think would need to happen to make really women full and equal participants in the digital sector in Europe? Just a minute. Who wants to start? What's the most important?
I'll start. I think we need to change the perception publicly of what women are capable of, because that's the biggest barrier to success in the tech industry and everywhere else. It's not just within the industry, looking at the profiles of tech workers who've been successful in the past, that were all men, and that makes it harder for women, that makes it harder for people of color to succeed and to get a chance. But it's also receptiveness to policies mandating more diversity that we need to propose and we need to support, because at the end of the day, diversity is good for everyone. If you're someone who feels diversity isn't an issue for you, eventually it will be. Eventually you will get older and you will discover, oh, age discrimination, or moving to another country, and oh, immigrant discrimination. It touches everyone at some point. So it's really something that shouldn't be viewed, in my view, as charity or as a nice to have or a positive thing during International Women's Month, but rather it should be something that we're all working towards because it benefits everyone.
Thank you. Oh no, we still have two people to go. I'm sorry, I was already. Who wants? Rosanna, Tolúlọpẹ?
I mean, I would go for the 40% target to begin with, and then I would engage not only women themselves, but really the whole community involved in making this happen. So seeing it as a multi-stakeholder problem rather than how do we educate the women. Educating the women is one part of a pie. And we need to get them jobs. We need to get them paid a good wage for what they're doing, and not take advantage of their entry-level position and minority position. So, to keep them happy where they are, to feel valued, and not have to either compensate for their differences, but to be valued for their differences. And yeah, so this is, I think, something that's like with change management, you have to create awareness around it, but at some point you also have to create the desire to change. That's why I keep on saying, we need this because we need innovation. If we talk about innovation, there's no way that, so I say innovation is the target and diversity is the method to get there. So, and that's why there is like, there's something in it for everyone. It's for the company, the hiring managers, and for the HR people as well. So I think, building awareness, creating the desire, and giving people the knowledge and ability to change.
Amazing. Tolúlọpẹ.
Well, luckily for you, it will be brief because Rosanna's taken all of my points. Everything I wanted to say. But whenever I have the opportunity to speak to wonderful people like the audience this evening, I share my mantra, which is pay Black women. But in this case, we can just say pay women and ensure that, women are paid as much as men are. Women are respected, but also, like everything Rosanna was saying, they do get promoted. They don't just get stuck in entry-level positions, because you'll see that once women are treated well, that 40% will happen relatively quickly, because then there'll be role models and then they'll be sharing their experiences with other people. So we need to value women and we need to pay them, and then structural change will follow.
Sounds great. This was a really great panel. Thank you all so much. I think we're really sending a message out there that it can be done, and it's easier than it looks to make the tech sector more diverse, more successful, more innovative in Europe. And this is exactly what we all want. And by the way, I had this little takeaway that I still have a career in cybersecurity, because I think I'm one of those women in their 40s, 50s, whatever. And I even hold a degree in sociology, and which is another thing I learned today, that cybersecurity is really about sociology and not about coding. So I'm not worried about my future anymore. Thank you all so much.